Hello, everybody, and welcome to ELF Live. I am your lonely sole host this evening, Nick Alfieri, a.k.a. Nauf. I'm going to be hosting by myself, so you guys in the chat, feel free to chime in and kind of co-host along here with me. But we've got some fun stuff to talk about, and we've got a great interview that I'm very, very excited to get down in and talk to him. We're going to be talking with him in a couple of minutes. But we have had a great start to the ELF season this year. 4 weeks so far. We're heading into week 5. We talked on Monday with Matt Bressington about the games from the previous weekend. And, you know, we've got some just as exciting games coming up this weekend as well. But before we talk about those games, let's take a look at one of our favorite segments that we had in the offseason. And as things kind of heat up and get dramatic throughout the season, we're getting a little bit more of it, our signing center. So there we go. Hey, guys, in the chat, Fourth Down Fiasco will come co-host. Thanks, guys. Hey, and I appreciate that thanks, Mike, on the engagement. Very, very much appreciated. All right, but back to football. Signing center. First on our signing center for this week. Maxie, who do we got? Pull it up for us. The big news. The Milano Seaman signing veteran Jacques Crawford, the 36-year-old. So I think a lot of people saw that the Milano Seaman were the only team in the ELF who had an American running back. And they ended up letting him go a couple weeks ago, Patrick Carr. And I think people thought, okay, that kind of makes sense. You're going to let go of your American running back and finally get an American wide receiver like every other team has. And they busted out with the big surprise, and they signed Jacques Crawford, who's an absolute legend in the ELF. He is the second leading rusher all time, only behind the king himself, Glenn Tunga. But he's had a fantastic career in the ELF for 2021 and 2022, and now he's going to Milan. It's very interesting signing. People are a little bit split on this one because they're going from running back to running back when many people are not very convinced that an American running back is actually the move in the ELF, but they have signed Jacques Crawford nonetheless, and hopefully for the Milano Seaman, that will bring their offense the spark that they are so desperately looking for. And so that is a big, splashy signing. And, you know, some people, myself included, are a little bit of the naysayer of the American running back, but hey, maybe Jacques was going to come and prove guys like me wrong that an American running back can do it. You know, you got to respect a guy of his advanced years. I'm a guy in my 30s. He's in his mid-30s, 36, so he's really got the experience, but we'll see what he can bring to the Milano Seaman. So that's a big first signing that we've got for our signing center this week. Guys, let me know in the chat what you think about that. Oh, ELFpedia says, in Italian sport, that's not yet an age. Yeah, there you go. He's still got the youth. And our next one, Maxie, on the signing center. Interesting. Central Conference as well. The Ravens placed John Cole on IR. John Cole, of course, their American wide receiver, who was brought in to hopefully kind of replace what Markel Castle did last year. I mean, you can't really replace that, but hopefully to kind of work in that direction. It hasn't been such a big success for the Ravens. John Cole really hasn't been able to stand out much or really get going much at all. And unfortunately, he is banged up now. And so to replace him, the Munich Ravens have brought in another ELF legend, Malik Stanley. And he is going to be bolstering up the Munich Ravens offense. Now, we'll see if Malik, who's played for the Hamburg Sea Devils, obviously, I believe in 2022, and then the Rostock Panthers in 2023, he's just finishing up playing in the Mexican League where he really tore it up. I mean, he's got the talent, he's got the ability, and we're going to see if this brings the Ravens what they're looking for, really trying to replace that downfield threat that Markel Castle did so well last year. We'll see if Malik and Chad Jeffries can get that kind of chemistry that Jeffries and Castle had last year, because we all know from watching that this is what the Ravens are desiring, what they're trying to get. So Malik Stanley back in the ELF, exciting news. for our league. Fourth Down Fiasco says, I'm pumped for Malik Stanley. Yeah, that's a big one. So we'll see how he does in there with the Munich Ravens. They've got a big game coming up this weekend, which we will talk about in a little bit. Next one on our signing center. The Enthroners have bolstered up their offensive line with Samuel Orji, the big man. He's the Nigerian native, and he's actually not even going to count as an E spot or any import spot. He's going to count as a homegrown. He's part of the NFL International Pathway Program. And, the Enthroners have had quite a bit of trouble this year, and the offensive line has not been one of their strong points. And so hopefully Orji will be able to bolster that up a little bit. Really, really valuable that he doesn't even take up an E spot. So getting the big Nigerian in there out in the East, it's going to hopefully help the Enthroners move in the right direction. Next one, Maxie. Oh, this one is interesting. And we'll talk about why this guy's being brought in a second. The Vikings have signed the European E-spot import, the Finn, Kimi Linnainmaa. And bro, I am so sorry for pronouncing that. These Finnish names are very, very difficult to pronounce. Actually, just a quick little tangent. The Finnish language is one of the only languages that isn't even related to any other languages. So it's very, very difficult to learn and difficult to pronounce these names. So I apologize, Kimi, but we're excited to have you back in the league, at least for a little while. He was the MVP of the ELF championship game in 2022. I do have his stats here. I think he put up about 123 yards on 7 catches. So he's part of that championship team in 2022. And he's coming back to fill that import spot. And the reason he is being brought in is because of the next one on our signing center, our man, Jordan Bouah, my fellow Italian and teammate on the Italian national team, who has been absolutely tearing it up in the ELF this year. He is the only non-American receiver to be in the top 5 for receiving statistic category. All the other wide receivers in the top 5 were A imports. Jordan is really putting on for Europe as an E wide receiver, playing at the highest level. Unfortunately, got banged up. We're gonna actually be talking to him because he is here with us. We've got the man himself, one of the best, not just European wide receivers, one of the best wide receivers in all of Europe, joining us on the show today. Jordan, what is up, my man?
I appreciate it, man. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah,
everything is good. Just got out of surgery a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
Recovery is going very, very well. Procedure went amazing.
Right.
I'm looking at a minimum of 6 weeks to go back for contact. But I'm gonna probably take a little more. Hopefully, the schedule allows us. So we'll see.
Well, that's the thing, and we talked just a little bit about it. Of course, getting injured in any way absolutely sucks. But the fact that it's not, a lower body injury and you're going to be back playing this season. Talk us through, for the people who don't know, what is the injury and kind of how did it happen?
It was just like a simple collarbone rupture. Nothing, no tendons or ligaments involved, which is a huge blessing. And just got plated up. Got a little titanium part right now that's helping me out. But I feel very good. Very excited that the season isn't over for me, mentally especially. It would have been a completely different mindset right now if I was gonna finish with only 4 games. So I'm just excited, to finish the season. The part that counts the most, that's the playoffs. That's where everybody want to play, and being able to be back for that, it's a blessing.
Absolutely, man. And I'm so thrilled for you that you'll be able to be back. But hey, we got to talk about the start of the season that you had. And like I said, you just been tearing it up. And you are the only European to be in the top 5 of those statistical categories. Jordan, we talked, remember when we were at the FIBO, and we talked about how, last year you didn't feel like, and I agree, you didn't feel like you really got to show out and show your capabilities all the way. And this year, for the first 4 games, you really got to do that. What do you think has been different this year compared to last year, at least for these first 4 games?
Play calling, and that's about it. I'll say play calling. At the end of the day, when the targets arrive your way, that's when you got to make a play. I've been talking about this all the time. It's all about them targets, and when they come, you just got to make a play. We got very good connection with Ben. So the first 2 games, we were rolling, and then he got hurt. And despite it all, we still managed to put up some good numbers. So considering the fact that I had my starting quarterback for only 2 games, I was going pretty well for me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, you guys are having, of course, a little bit of quarterback adversity there with Ben Holmes getting injured. You only got to play with him 2 games, right?
Yep.
Yep. And then, of course, you guys have had a couple other guys fill in, but still be able to pick up wins. Maybe, Jordan, can you just talk to me a little bit about the Vienna Vikings as a team? Because I always think it's such a good, or a sign of a good team, when things don't go well, when you guys face adversity, and that's exactly what you guys have had with losing your starting quarterback, yet still be able to come together as a team, no matter who's in, and pull out wins. And I'm thinking even specifically of your guys' game on the road against Wroclaw, where Reichel was the quarterback, Austrian native, and you guys came out with that big win. Can you just talk to me a little bit, man, about the Vienna Vikings and the culture you guys have and the guys, the teammates you guys have?
You already said it. It's just the chemistry of the team. It's everything, literally. Like when you join here, you can ask any import that came through in this program. You can ask Reese right now. He was part of the program in the past, but as soon as he came, it's just like it was here from the get-go. It's a very tight homegrown group and imports, which really makes the difference. And we support each other. We don't point fingers. Obviously, we're very competitive. We're very driven. We have obviously high standards, but we just love each other, and we just don't blame anybody else. We just look at ourselves and just try to get better.
Yeah, man, I love that. It's just fantastic. And of course, Coach Kalaikai, is the head coach and been there for a long time and been able to be a huge part of establishing that culture.
Absolutely.
Jordan, we talked, of course, about kind of your individual performance so far, coming on fire at the start of the season, and I'm sure when you get back, you'll be picking up right where you left off.
Absolutely.
Looking out at some other, and I'm thinking more specifically other European wide receivers or even offensive players in general. Is there anybody else around the league, European wise, that you've been impressed with this year?
This year, I'm not gonna lie. I would need to watch more film about other teams that are not in our conference.
Yeah.
As far as like judging, I really like to judge a person off a full game. I don't like to watch the highlights. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'll be really careful on what I say. But the classic names. The Quofi, for example, last year, I was really excited to see him. I don't see he's producing as much as he was last year at the moment, but we're looking forward for that. Also looking forward for Maungo in Paris. Just these 2 are the first 2 that pop in my mind, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, these are another two of the other elite European wide receivers. Do you get? I don't want to say annoyed, but maybe some type of way about you're playing a position that in the ELF, most teams get an American imports at this position, and you're always hearing about the Americans at the wide receiver position. And we had Maceo Beard, the DB, on a couple weeks ago, and he talked about how he gets a little bit sick of people always talking about all the American DBs, and hey, I'm going to line up across these guys and I'm going to lock you down, and I'm European. Doesn't matter. Did any of these thoughts kind of cross into your minds?
Man, I've been feeling like this since I was born, man. Like I literally started playing this game at 20 years old, living like a possibility of earning money with basketball to hop on a sport that I didn't know at all. So my mindset is always like, I don't know where you're coming from, how much experience you have more than me. We're just gonna line up and see what happens. I really don't mind. I said it this multiple times. If I was gonna be dropped in a UFL roster or NFL roster tomorrow, I was gonna have the same mindset in which I face ELF games with. It doesn't really matter.
I love that, man. I love that. I really, that's and I love to see guys like you just not giving a shit and going out there and dominating, man.
Exactly.
That's what it's all about.
Too much, this is what happens.
Yeah. they had to cool you off, man. You were getting too hot. They had to cool you off.
Yep. They did. They
There
did.
you go. Hey man, I'm a little bit curious because I did an interview, a podcast with Ben Holmes before the season. Just spent 45 minutes or so with him online, but seemed like a really, really good guy, and I was very impressed with how he carried himself. Can you talk to me a little bit about playing with Ben Holmes and how he's been coming into Vienna? This is his first time in the playing in Europe.
Just man, 2 words: true professional. Like for real. Crazy amount of film, crazy amount of working out, of trying to be a leader. Like he's also, I think, his life also brought him to a different level of maturity for whatever happens. If you guys know a little bit of his story, he also has a family, has a second kid coming in. So he's a grown man. He's a grown man under many aspects, and this definitely reflects on the field. This professionality is just it's intense. So very high competitor, which is what you want. I would say it's an amazing quarterback, man. I can't wait to see him in action as soon as he comes back.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's exactly kind of the vibe that I got from him as well. It's just true professional. I mean, he's a grown ass man, and like you said, some of the stuff in his life journey has brought him to this level of maturity, and I'm super excited. And I think the league is super excited to get him back on the field. Do you know? I mean, you probably can't say, but he's probably coming back in a game or two. Like this might be the last game that you guys don't have him.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah, okay.
So back in business.
There we go. There's a hashtag started by one of our other analysts, Alex Malchow, Ben VP for Ben Holmes.
Oh yeah, we like that.
We got a couple in the chat right now. ELFpedia, Ben VP, fourth down fiasco. Shouting out Ben VP. That's good branding right there. Hey, Jordan, before I let you go, I want to talk to you a little about the Vienna Vikings defense, man. You guys on defense are crazy. And last game, Berlin Thunder, a very, very good team. You guys came from behind. Obviously, that you guys were putting up points on offense, but defensively, they stood out. They had 10 sacks as a defensive unit. I mean, what's it like going against these guys in practice and competing with these guys?
I think that's the best thing we had so far in this year's. It's just and I don't mean to, take anything from anybody, but the artist is to score a practice for us. This defense, obviously we're advantaged. They are not going to tackle our quarterbacks, so they keep us playing. But if we really went live every day, oh my goodness, this would be the hardest thing we can possibly do. So it's really a blessing because they'd be flying around. We got homegrown, so they can really, raise the standard. And the imports also. This year is the first year that we finally have, healthy DBs, American DBs. And it's really nice to see them flying around back there because we always had a D line, but now with the talent that we have, the homegrown talent, we have a D line. We're better off with 2 DBs. So
I mean, you guys have the craziest. You guys have very possibly the best D line in the league with no Americans on it.
Yeah,
with just pure European talent.
It's really impressive, man.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Yeah, and then you guys got a guy like Xavier Edwards, of course, who not only plays defense, but he got a little action on offense in the last game, didn't he?
Of course, man. You got to give him the ball. You got to give him a little bit of chicken, like he likes to. Give him a little bit of chicken, it's gonna make something happen.
There we go, Jordan. There we go, man. Hey, brother, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. And dude, it's awesome to see the way that you're tearing up the season so far. And I can't wait to get you back on the field, man. Speedy recovery. Take your time because this league, we need you. The Vikings need you, of course, but the league also needs you for some highlights and all this shit coming in the playoffs. Okay, brother?
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Hell yeah, brother. All right. Have a good night, dude. We'll talk to you.
Thank you.
There we go. Jordan Bouah. Love that guy. Got to play with him on the Italian national team. And just what a talent. Didn't start playing football until he was 20 years old. He touched on it there, but he was a basketball player. And so he is just really started football late and become an elite talent. It's really cool when you look at the stats, like on the ELF's Instagram, seeing that, okay, these are all American import A's, and then Jordan Bouah up here in the top 5. Chat, what's going on, guys? Sorry, I didn't see if you guys had any questions for Jordan there. Okay, looks like you did not. Okay, good. I didn't neglect any of your potential questions from Jordan there. So yeah, Jordan Bouah, and he's got the broken collarbone right now, but he'll be back. And this is just part of the game of football. He got injuries, next man up, and he'll be back. Ben Holmes coming back soon too. It's good for the league. And Vienna, we'll talk about them in a little bit, but they're a very exciting team. Maxie, what do we got? Can you pull up our schedule coming up? Oh yeah, first. Okay. Guys in the chat, this is Tim's power ranking. I'm just going to real quickly, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but we're going to real quick take a look at these. If you guys see any glaring discrepancies or things that you completely disagree with, let me know in the chat. I'm going to go, okay, Helvetic at bottom, yes. Milano, it's really tough there. I think kind of with sort of bottom 5, you could really switch them around. I would actually put Milano a little bit higher. I'd put Prague lower. And then as we get up here, Hamburg below Cologne, I would say for sure now. I previously had it the other way, but after seeing Cologne play the Bravos last week, a game which I actually got to commentate last minute, there was an emergency. They threw me in there. I'll get into the commentating game. So I got to see Cologne, kind of firsthand all game. Very impressed with them. They really stuck around with the Bravos. 4th down fiasco, what are you saying? Dragons should be over the Enthroners. Thomas, Galaxy over the Raiders. That's interesting. Yeah, as we look up here at the top 10, it's really, really difficult. The top 10, you could really shuffle around a lot. Because, of course, the Raiders beat the Ravens last week, but I'm not sure. If those teams played 10 times, do you guys think that the Raiders really beat the Ravens 7 or 8 of those times? I think that'll be either a little bit more evenly split or maybe even in favor of the Raiders. N'Kosi Perry, Raiders' new quarterback, came on just real hot and showed a really clutch performance. We see in here to the top 5: Madrid, Paris, Rhein Fire, Vienna Vikings. I mean, you guys know I like that surge on the top. But actually, no, and like without even being biased at all, you've got to have the surge up there at the top with the Vienna Vikings, a close second. To me, these two teams, the Vikings and the Surge, are showing that they're the most complete teams right now. A couple other teams have sort of, one dimension going, one or two dimensions going, but the Vikings and the Surge, if we had the championship game right now, that's what I would like to see. Let's see what else you guys saying here. Helvetic changes ownership as much as the Raiders change quarterback, but hopefully this is it. Jamal, you're right, man. Hey, that's your squad, and Helvetic did change ownership. And there, see what you do. 4th down fiasco. We break into the top 5, no man's land, and the bottom 5. Bravos win and move down. Yeah, they did move down. I mean, they played Cologne, and in the end, they did kind of pull away. I think they won by 11, but Cologne was really hanging around there. I'm a little bit, Madrid is very, very good. And obviously they had the big win against the Rhein Fire. I'm a little bit worried that we're all putting too much stock in that one game. I think, of course, Madrid played super inspired and deserved to win that game. I think from the Rhein Fire side, it was a little bit of a fluke. That's kind of the position that I'm taking. And so I think that, the Madrid Bravos are placed kind of right where they should be. Yeah, there we go. That's ELFpedia says Fire are too high. I'm not sure. Thomas says Surge over Vikings now is okay because the Surge beat them last year. As long as the Surge are not losing, they're number 1. Yeah, I'm for that, Thomas. I think that's a decent logic, and then we can stick with that for right now. All right, guys. So that's the power ranking from Tim, and it's very possible next week we'll do another power ranking. With this league and how exciting everything is, and what can happen any weekend. We can have some shuffling around every single week. But let's look here at our slate for week 5 of the ELF season, and I'm just going to kind of buzz through a couple of these games. You guys Let me know your thoughts on any of them. First up, Seaman at the Barcelona Dragons. We talked about it in the signing center. The Seaman released their American running back, Patrick Carr, and they signed another American running back, Jock Crawford. Now, Jock Crawford is a fantastic football player and a legend in this league. But if you're asking me personally, I would have gone for an American wide receiver. But they're sort of doubling down on the run game, and they're just trying to plug in Jock Crawford. This is the thing. He's still going to be running behind the same offensive line that Patrick Carr was running behind. So there's still going to be, the similar play calling and similar problems that they've had. So I'm not sure if just swapping out the running back is going to make too much of a difference. Jock, if you're watching this, prove me wrong. I'm rooting for you, but just from a strategy standpoint, I'm not sure. The Seaman are also the worst team in the league when it comes to turnover margin. They are -5 on the turnover margin. This is always a very indicative stat of how well a team will do, or wins and losses turnover margin, and they are really struggling there. And they've also put up the least amount of points in the league. And what's Marcus saying in the chat? Max, you told me Marcus is in the chat. He's going for the Dragons. I'll tell you my pick in a second here, Marcus. I'll tell you my pick. But I got to see Zach Bronkhorst last week, and I got to see him play live. And the guy can put together some drives. He can complete passes when he's not getting under immediate pressure from people bursting through his offensive line. He's a competent quarterback. He can also move. He's mobile with his feet, so he's got some ability there. And the Barcelona Dragons, they've got 2 wins, both against Helvetic, who is the lowest ranked team in the league. Barcelona also arguably has the worst defense in the league, at least statistically. And they are just not very good on third down conversion. Second worst in the league. They're only 27% success on third down conversion. So another very important stat that they're not super successful with. This is sort of, if you look at it by some of these stats, it's sort of the worst offense in the league versus the worst defense in the league. I am going to have to go, though, with Milan. I think even if I'm not a huge fan of the running back signing, maybe that breathes in a little bit of new life, new juice, new energy to that offense. It's going to be a tight game. I think it's going to be a very good game, but I'm going with Milan on this one. You guys in the chat, let me know what you got. And who else was in there? Oh, Jacob Johnson. What's up, bro? The Seaman released the Patrick Carr. Making some funny jokes there, Jacob. All right, moving on to the next one. Yeah, so I got Seaman. Next one, a battle in the mountains. The Tyrol Raiders versus the Helvetic Mercenaries. I'm just going to, I'm going to go out and say this is going to be the Tyrol Raiders. The Tyrol Raiders are going to win this game, but it is a very important game. We saw last week N'Kosi Perry, the Raiders' new quarterback, who they have worked very hard to get. They've gone through a few. Raiders got N'Kosi Perry, and he came through with a clutch win in his first ever European football debut. Now, the next 2 games for the Raiders are against the Helvetic Mercenaries and the Barcelona Dragons, 2 teams that are not considered, top 10 teams. Maybe won't be extremely competitive score-wise for the Raiders. But then the next game after that is against the Vienna Vikings. And in my opinion, this is why N'Kosi Perry is here in Europe. This is why the Raiders made such a big deal about getting the perfect quarterback for themselves, is because they want to beat the Vienna Vikings. And so these next 2 games, including this one here against the Helvetic Mercenaries, are a chance for the Raiders to get N'Kosi Perry a little bit more comfortable. They're comfortable in Europe, comfortable with the playbook. That first win against the Ravens, a lot of that, I believe, was just being an athlete, being a clutch player. He was connecting with Darian Chafin on some of those 4th downs. And a lot of that was just clutch football. But I think he needs to get more established into the playbook. And these next 2 games will sort of help him do that. He's got to get some other receivers involved. I know last game, Philip Hahn was injured. Marco Schneider, though, didn't really get that involved. So got to get N'Kosi Perry to be able to distribute the ball and not just have the one connection with Darian Chafin, because I think teams will inevitably be able to lock down on that. Helvetic Mercenaries, obviously they've had a lot of problems off the fields, but they just got to keep taking steps in the right direction and keep pulling away positive things. Last week they could have won. Obviously the kicking game, not good, but they were in position to win that game and get a W. They did sign a couple new players. Benji Barnes, defensive back, and sort of bolstering up their defensive backfield, which is actually pretty solid, especially with Ken Hike Jr. back there. So this will be a good little competition for N'Kosi Perry to tune up with. And they also announced new owners this week, so they're making moves, but this one is going to be Raiders. But Jamal in the chat says, Helvetic wins, and I'm hosting on Monday. Hell yeah, there we go, Jamal. Jamal, you better be there, man. We're going to talk about, okay, prove me wrong. We're going to talk about how I was an idiot with my pick and that it's going to be all Helvetic Mercenaries. But I'm locking in my Raiders there, boys. Mike says, hey, Jamal, no new videos in some time. We need them. Yeah, Jamal, we got to get you content, man. We need it. I love it. So our next game on the docket, one that I'm very excited about, the Stuttgart Surge versus the Munich Ravens. This is a rematch of the season opener, sort of the South German Derby. I would guess, guys, that the Ravens are feeling a little bit disappointed right now. I mean, we talked a lot about the Ravens in the offseason, how they were going to be. I mean, some of us even talked about the Ravens are a top 3 team. And, they've put together a fantastic roster. They've got a lot of stuff going for them, but they're sitting at 2-2 right now. And I think that they expected to be at least 3-1, possibly even 4-0 at this point. An interesting point is the Ravens have the easiest schedule in the ELF this year. Now, they've had 2, what you could call sort of competitive games. Marcus, I see you right there in the chat. This is going to be your first game in person. We will see you there. Thomas is hyped for this game. Yeah. Hell yeah, man. Me too. So what I was saying is the Ravens have had 2 competitive games, and that's against the Surge and that's against the Raiders. They have 2 wins against some less competitive opponents, Prague and Milano. And they have only 2 more chances throughout the rest of the year to have what I would consider competitive games. And that's this next one against the Surge and then their eventual rematch against the Raiders. If the Ravens don't pick up these wins and go at least 2-2 in their competitive games against these sort of premier teams, then they're not going to be anywhere near the playoffs. So this is sort of a do or die game for the Ravens, I think. Of course, they signed Malik Stanley. We'll see if this gives them their deep threat that they have been so craving. See if this fills the shoes of the ghost of Markel Castle, who fled to Frankfurt. But this one is set to be just an exciting one. Riley Hennessy, of course, on the Surge side, is playing like an MVP. I mean, right now he's got to be one of the leading, if not the leading MVP candidates. He's played 3 games, really 2.5 games, and he's got 10 touchdowns with 0 interceptions. Something like 750 yards, just commanding the football field and playing like a real veteran. And, of course, he's extremely talented, but he's also got what many people would say is the best or one of the best receiving rooms in the entire league. Got Yannick Meyer, Louis Geyer, another guy who doesn't get mentioned too much actually is Paul Steigerwald, another big body who's been very productive this year. And the thing to remember is the Surge have actually not played with an American receiver. They've been getting it done with European talent. But this week, Damon Hazleton Jr., who is over to fill in for the injured Darrell Stewart Jr., look for him to get a little bit more involved. So Riley Hennessy will really have a plethora of options. But man, this one is going to be, I think it's going to be more high scoring than the opening game. The opening game was 27-5. Ravens couldn't do anything on offense, especially on the ground. I think they rushed for 22 yards. That's it. And we do have to give props to the Stuttgart Surge defense, of course, which is flying around just like Vienna's defense. Man, it's going to be a great game. 10,000 tickets at least sold, playing in the big arena in Nuremberg. But you guys know, I got to go Surge on this one. It's going to be a little bit more competitive than the first time, but Surge pull away with the win and keep building on that momentum. That's what I got. Guys, tell me what in the chat. You guys, what do you think? Oh, Matt says, Dr. Langauer is also there. That's true. Another wide receiver who doesn't get too much credit. But yeah, we got to go. We got to go Surge on this one. Moving out east, everybody. Oh, yeah, Matt said 27-38 surge. I think a score like that is pretty reasonable. I think Munich's not going to have quite as many offensive woes as they did in the opener, but I think that the surge will just be able to score more points. And that's going to be that 27-10 surge. Yeah, fourth down fiasco. That's also a nice prediction right there. It's going to be something like that. Not going to be a blowout, but the surge will win comfortably. That's my opinion. All right. I could talk about the surge all day, guys, but we do have to move on. We got to move on. We can talk about the surge some more next time. Moving out east, Vienna Vikings at the Prague Lions. Vienna Vikings 4-0, playing lights out. Prague Lions still looking to get that first ever win in the European League of Football. Unfortunately, this week is not going to be that week. Vienna Vikings are just one of the top two teams in the league. They've been playing lights out. They're coming off that big fourth quarter come from behind win against Berlin last week. Obviously, Jordan Bouah, who we talked to, got injured, and then they brought in a new European wide receiver to fill in for him right now. Sheldon Epler threw 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, like very solid performance. Sort of protected the ball. I think he threw just 1 pick. And so really just did a good job managing the game. And this might be the last game where Ben Holmes is not playing. We might be seeing Ben Holmes 2 weeks from now. But the Vienna Vikings, man, their defense, they get it done on the ground. Kari Basharan, just one of the best running backs in the league. And their defensive line is just ridiculous. And if you guys were watching when Jordan was on here talking about the defensive line, where I think many people would agree they have the best defensive line in the league with straight across the board European talent, no Americans, no American import, and they're still just dominating the defensive front there. They had 10 sacks last game. Terlitza himself had 3.5. So it's going to be a lot for Prague, guys. It's going to be a lot. Prague Lions also not a very strong offensive line. A not very strong offensive line going against probably the best defensive line. I don't think Lyles is going to have that fun of a day. I think he's going to be running for his life. I think it's going to be big in favor of the Vikings. Let's see. What are you guys saying? M Bison. I feel bad for what Lyles is about to go through that game. Vienna by a whole lot. Yeah, 100%, man. Just what I said there. Agree with you. Fourth down fiasco. They have quite a few injuries on the D-line, kind of banged up, but should impact production. Oh, you mean on Vienna's D-line? And then ELFpedia, with correct refereeing, they might have won against Hamburg. 2 harsh wrong decisions brought the momentum change. That's interesting. That's a little bit controversial there. I did hear that maybe Prague could have snuck away with the W. They have played Hamburg competitively 2 times. And obviously last week coming out and they were leading 10-0 for a while. But just they haven't really had experience being in a leading position, and then they ended up letting it go. But okay, yeah, fourth down fiasco. Yeah, thank you for that. So this one heavily in favor of the Vienna Vikings, who will continue to roll. Staying out east, Maxi, you want to show us the next one? Wroclaw Panthers, Fehervar and Throners. Wroclaw, man, what an interesting team. What an interesting case. This is a team that I believe I said when we did our most underrated rosters, I chose the Wroclaw Panthers as the most underrated roster. And I still believe they've got a very, very talented roster. But they're sitting at 1-3 right now. Unfortunately, they have the hardest schedule in the league. We talked about Munich having the easiest schedule in the league. Well, Wroclaw has the toughest schedule in the league. And they've lost to very, very good teams. Close games. They lost to Galaxy by 10. They lost to the Surge by 10. And they lost the Vienna Vikings by 3. And I know people are going to say, oh, well, when they lost the Vienna Vikings, they didn't have their starting quarterback. They played with Reichel. They shouldn't have lost. But no, I don't buy that, because the Vienna Vikings are a team where you can really just go next man up. And this is a team, no matter who's going in, even at the most important position, the Vienna Vikings are an elite team, even playing man down there. So to lose by the Vikings, I don't think that was such a disaster, as big as a disaster that a lot of people are saying. And Wroclaw is a team that is really not benefiting from their schedule. What they're also not benefiting from, of course, though, is their decision to release Steven Duncan. Some people are split on this, but I think after what happened last week, we saw that Steven Duncan was not the problem in Rovslaw. The big issue there seems to be their O-line. Fourth Down Fiasco says if the Panthers had an O-line, they'd be better. Their QB doesn't have a lot of time to throw, but every team could use O-line. Yeah, it's very, very true. There's a big market for offensive linemen in Europe now. Offensive linemen are getting the chance to get paid, and it's, there's not unlimited of them, and every team is in dire need of some good offensive linemen. And the quarterback drama with the Panthers, just like you guys said, I think that, we saw Uribe have similar struggles that Duncan had the previous week. And so you just can't, Steven Duncan kind of seemed to be the scapegoat of that situation. But the Panthers are having similar issues. So that's kind of the trouble with the Panthers is the schedule and then whatever's going on at quarterback and offensive line. But on a positive note, AJ Wentland, I think the guy has 62 tackles in 4 games. And he's not just making tackles. I mean, he's got forced fumbles, fumble recovery, interception, pick six that was called back. Just all over the field, averaging 15.5 tackles per game. That's pretty damn wild. So on the positive side for the Panthers, you got AJ Wentland out there. Panthers are going to pick up the win here, in my opinion, over the Enthroners. Enthroners 0-3, still struggling. Of course, they just signed a couple new players, bolstered up their offensive line a little bit. But the Panthers are a team that are still very, very good, and they're just the victim of an incredibly difficult schedule. Who knows? The Panthers could end up really turning this around. I mean, it's a long season. There's a lot that can still be done. M. Bison says Panthers will win this game, but they won't make it to the playoffs because of that gauntlet of a schedule. I think a lot of people would agree with you right there, man, myself being one of them. All right, bringing it up to the last game of the week and maybe the best game of the week. Very possibly. The Rhein Fire at the Berlin Thunder. Wow. So what can we say about the Rhein Fire this year, guys? We can say that the Rhein Fire in 2024 are mortal. In 2023, they were immortal. They were untouchable. But this is a new year. But I do think that we are overreacting a little bit from their loss. Just like I said earlier, I think that a lot of people in this ELF community, ELF world, are overreacting a little bit from the Rhein Fire losing to the Madrid Bravos. They had a big win last week, bouncing back against Paris, who is an elite team, top 3 or 4 team, Paris is. So that's a very, very good win. And they were still able to win while not firing on all cylinders. The passing game for the Rhein Fire is not clicking just yet. I do think eventually it will, but right now it is not. But the sign of a good team is to be able to still come away with wins even when things don't go wrong. We kind of talked about Vienna when they were able to pull out some wins, even having adversity with their quarterback position. Well, the Rhein Fire are still able to pull out wins, some wins that people might even call ugly. But the sign of a good team is when one part is sort of lacking at the moment, another aspect or another unit of the team picks up the slack. Last week, that's exactly what happened. Glenn freaking Tunga, 206 yards, I believe, on 30 carries, carried the team on his back and really led them to the win over Paris. And I think being able to rely different units of the team, being able to rely on each other and pick up the slack for one another is actually the sign of a good team. I have no doubt that the Rhein Fire will get it figured out and start to click on offense. Obviously, they lost Harlan Kofi, and they're still trying to figure out some things. How does their passing game look in 2024? But they're going to do it. They still have Andrew Weidinger. They still have Jadrian Clark. They still have a lot of these guys, and they're going to be able to figure it out. So that's what I've got to say about the Rhein Fire. But then on the Berlin Thunder side, this team's sitting at 2-2, but that record does not reflect how good of a team they are. Jacob Sullivan to Aaron Jackson. This is one of the most entertaining offensive duos in the league right now. Jacob Sullivan is absolutely tearing it up, leading the league in passing, 1,100 something yards, 11 touchdowns, handful of picks, but he's a little bit of a gunslinger. Nothing crazy. I think maybe he has 3 picks. But this is also a very good team, and they were leading against the Vienna Vikings last week. They just could not pull it out at the end, and a lot of that is due to Vienna and their culture that they have there. But the problem with Berlin, we just talked about Jacob Sullivan and Aaron Jackson and how they're great through the air. The problem is they can't run the damn ball. They are very one-dimensional offensively. I think they rushed for 39 yards last game. So you're going 350, 400 yards through the air and less than 40 yards on the ground. It's very one-dimensional. So it's kind of interesting because if you look at these two teams, you sort of say both of them are one-dimensional right now. Berlin is one-dimensional, unable to run, and they're great at throwing. And the Rhein Fire is a little bit more one-dimensional, leaning on the run in Glen Tunga, and are having more struggling through the air. So you could kind of argue that it's a little bit of two teams that are fighting to find multidimensionality at this point. Let's see, 4th down fiasco. Can Kitchens fluster Clark enough? Get him uneasy, cause turnovers. That's a good point. That's a very good point. And Bison says this is also going to be a fun for individual battles. Action Jackson's going to do against the Fire secondary. Can the Fire's O-line contain Kitchens and that D-line? These are great points, guys. A lot of good individual matchups as well. Rodney P says Berlin Thunder has been that team that beats the teams they should beat, but loses to the upper echelon of teams. They need to get over that hurdle. I do agree. That's a great point, and we kind of just saw that last week with their game against the Vienna Vikings. Yeah, I mean, it's a team that's very, very capable, but just is not able to get over that hurdle of beating these kind of more premier teams. And unfortunately for the Thunder, I think they're not going to be able to do that this week against the Fire. I think the Fire come away with this one. I think it's competitive for 3 quarters, and then I think that the Fire are able to pull away. The Fire are sick of all of us talking about how they're done. I said this last week. I think the Fire playing Fire It Up, and they're going to start clicking a little bit. And Michael Klein says Sullivan cannot escape for the Rhein Fire. Yeah, so that's what I'm going, guys. I'm going Rhein Fire on that one, okay? Those are my picks. That's what we got. Look at that. Look at that slate of games. I mean, we talked about it, guys. This past weekend was incredible. We had 8 games. 7 of them were thrillers. A couple of them were like immediate classics. This weekend, we've got a couple great games. I think if I'm looking at which ones I'm most excited about, I got to go Surge Ravens, which I will be at. That's in Nuremberg. And like I said, at least 10, maybe 11,000 tickets sold already. Probably a couple more thousand will be sold. So that's going to be rocking. It's going to be super competitive. Those teams are chippy. It has turned into a tense rivalry down here in Southern Germany. So I'm very excited about that one. Marcus, you're going to be there. Say hi to me. Scream, find me. Say what's up to you. We can send a picture to Silas. And then I'm also very excited about Berlin Rhein Fire. Those are probably my 2 favorite of the weeks. Guys, we did it. We survived a solo show. I can't even believe it. I can't believe we did it. I thought that okay. Maxie's putting me here real quick. I got to pick my last 2 guys. I got to pick my last 2 guys on my fantasy team. Hold on. And all right, here you see my fantasy team. Of course, you know I go Riley Hennessy at quarterback. Dwayne Obie, that's a smart pick right there. Kid's just a bruiser. Geyer, 3 touchdowns last week. Probably gonna do it again. All right, we gotta pick another wide receiver 2 for myself. Okay. Thanks, Mike. Real quick. Maxie, I'm not sure if it's working. There we go. All right. Let's give me a wide receiver 2, guys, huh? Do you think I can Willie Patterson's in a bye? Oh, Chafin has been going crazy. And I think him and N'Kosi Perry are going to build off that momentum last week. Give me Chafin. Can I afford that? I can. All right. Also, my running backs are on a bye. Are they? Who's on a bye? Oh, shoot. You're right. Thanks, bro. Appreciate that. Who said that? I can't see the name under there. Oh, Ulti, thank you. You're all over. All right, we got to get rid of Dwayne Obi. We got to get rid of Fishbach. Okay, guys, you're live seeing me pull out a championship roster right here. Should I just blow big money on Glenn? You know what? I'm going to go with Kari. Actually. Glenn, I love you. You're just a little steep for me this week, man. Okay. And then, I need a second. Rodney has been way more active for the Munich Ravens. Last week, he went for almost 100 yards, even with Oyewo back on the field. They're putting Oyewo more in the passing game. So I'm going these two boys right here. Let's see our team. All right. All we need is a flex. That's a good roster. I got 2.7 million. Obviously, you guys know I'm staying with the Stuttgart Surge defense too. You can't go wrong with them. All right. Let's give me a flex. Oh, my kicker's on a bye. Thanks, Maxie. We got to go kicker and flex. You know, I don't like to spend too much money on kicker. No disrespect to the position. We love you guys, but I like to go cheap at kicker. So I'm doing that right now. And then we need one more. We got 2.6. We can't afford. Okay, we got 2.6. I'm getting the most expensive guy we can. Damn, I would have gone with Jordan Bouah if he wasn't injured. Oh, we can get Mahongu. No, he's on a bye. Philip Hahn, you know what? I just said it earlier. I think that they're going to get N'Kosi Perry a little bit more comfortable with these other wide receivers. Oh, not enough salary cap. Dang it. 2.6. Oh, I'm $20,000 short. Dang it. All right. Let's see. Oh, you know what? We're going with my buddy Big Ropes. I was just talking to him. He's due for one. That's my buddy, my old teammate, Nathaniel Robitaille. He's going to bring out that roster. There we have it, guys. All right. I'm going to put that on Twitter. Okay. Everybody interact with me on Twitter there. All right. That's what we got. Guys, that's my squad. Click on the league at the top. Okay, Maxie, let me see. Oh, hell yeah. There we go. Look, here's the league leaderboards. Oh, yeah, the points are in, guys. Hell yeah. Jamal, I see you. You're at 8th. There you go. Top 10, bro. Damn. 411 points. All right. This weekend, I'm going to crack that top 10. Nice. That's sweet. It's working. It's all working. All right, fellas. I appreciate you having my back today on the solo show. We got through it. Look, and I'm just now finally starting to get sweaty. So we actually survived most of the show without even getting too sweaty there. Marcus, thank you, man. I'm excited for you. You're getting your first ever ELF game in person. Should be a good one. Everybody else, thank you so much for jumping into the chat and participating. Couldn't do these shows without you, so really appreciate it. All right, everybody. That's it. Watch some ELF football this weekend. Set your fantasy teams and watch some ball. See you next time.